Alright, today we are talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Rlaarlo Stormbreaker SBK10. Aloha, and welcome back to 9th Island RC. Obviously, I have not gotten the speed testing video done, and my apologies, although, valid reason, Las Vegas got hit with a freeze warning. Temperatures have been in the 30s and 40s, and it has been ridiculous. Plus wind, literally destroying things. It's not safe to go outside, at least it hasn't been until today, although today also very cold. So, in the meantime, I thought I would do a good, bad, and ugly video. And, gonna cover what the good, what the bad, and what the ugly is. Usually I like to start with, the bottom and work my way up so that I can finish on a good note. But, in this case, I'm actually gonna start with the good. And there is a lot of good. So let me just take the body off here so we can get a visual. So, I've done a video before about everything that you need to check on a new RTR, and obviously with my first video I ignored all that. I broke that rule, for the fun. But I have since gone over most of it. Now, I say most because I have not checked the shocks yet, and I have not checked the diffs, but I have checked everything else. And honestly, I am quite amazed as to the improvements that Rlaarlo has made. So let me first start by mentioning, so in the previous video, could not get the longer battery tray installed, and that's because couldn't get the capture nuts in, but as you can see that I've got the nuts in there, and just a standard 3mm nut, that's all you need, and these fit right in. I have tried removing the nuts from the other one using a well, not this one, sorry. I used this one, which is a 3mm hex, went down through hammer, and they still will not come out. So I don't know what's up with that. I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. I'm not worried. I've got plenty of spare nuts, so that's okay. In checking over the vehicle, I honestly found very few screws that were not properly tightened. Normally, you might find quite a few, and Rlaarlo does seem to be getting better with each new vehicle. Literally, there was only a few. I think it was this one. One of these, I don't remember which one. One of these screws on the back here, and I think one or two of the upper shock tower screws, one lower shock tower screw, or one lower shock screw. There was a couple of screws that are holding the shock tower on that were loose. And on the bottom, I think there was only like 2, maybe 3 that were not fully tightened. So honestly, quite amazed at how Rlaarlo is continuing to improve. Although, honestly, I shouldn't be amazed because that is something that, every company should strive to do, just to do better. So, that's the good. So now I'm going to get to the ugly. And the reason I'm going to the ugly before the bad is because there is nothing ugly. I mean, there really was nothing that I found horrible. The Stormbreaker is an extremely good vehicle. So, basically the ugly is non-existent. Now getting to the bad. And there are a few things, but again, not very many, not detrimental. So, first thing I should mention, just a tip. So, in installing the larger battery tray, as you go to move the ESC further back, recommend disconnecting the motor wires. I know a few people have done videos on installing the battery trays, and something that none of them have done was to remove the motor wires going to the ESC. Honestly, this makes it so much easier. I basically, removed it and then reinstalled it, partly because I was trying to check other things. And in removing the motor wires, it made it so much easier. As you can also see, another tip, is I've rerouted the battery connector going under the motor wires. The reason for that is that a lot of people have complained that the motor wires stick out. It makes it difficult to put the body on. It also pushes the body this way a little bit. Sorry. So, also a tip to install is when you're putting it on, if you can bend the body out just a little bit, that will make it so much easier. So if you just bend it out, put it on, lining up those tabs is a little difficult. There we go, right there. And all good. Pin, I'm not going to put the pin in, but I mean, it is sealed in there. So just by bending that out when you go to put it on, that will make it easier. And the body is fairly thin, but that's okay. It is supposed to be a bashing / race buggy, so a thinner body on a race buggy, that is common. Next tip. So if you watched the first video, you remember that this lower shock protector was backwards. It was facing the upper link. So you definitely check those. That was minor, very easy to fix, but still just something that was bad. I mean, in putting it together, that's something that the person should have easily noticed. Thankfully, that was the only one. Another thing that was bad is in the way the shocks are mounted to the standoff. And again, this is not a fault of Rlaarlo's. This is a fault of the person who put the vehicle together. So, as you can see, if you look at the top of the shock, you're going to notice that one side doesn't stick out as far as the other side. And the reason for that is, in checking it, I did find some where the longer side was up against here. They should not be that way. If you see any that way, turn it around. That longer side piece should be facing out. Why? Has to do with the shock cap protectors. So the diameter of these, it's supposed to actually go through the shock cap, and when the nut is on, it's not pressing against the plastic per se, it's actually pressing against the very end of that. I did find 2 of these that were on backwards, and what it ends up doing is inside there's like a little lip where the circle is. I'm trying to get this just at a slight angle where you might be able to see that lip. You can probably barely see it right there, just a little bit. If these are backwards, it's not seating correctly. It could be slightly off center, and then when the nut is tightened, it actually pinches the plastic, it deforms it. So make sure that those are with the long end facing forward on the front, facing back on the back. And then you hear that little pop. So you can look, you can actually see that piece is just barely sticking out. So that is the correct way that those should be installed. Another thing, and this one is on Rlaarlo. So you notice that the front standoff piece is metal. So why they use a plastic piece for the rear, I don't know. This causes 2 problems. One, this is nice and solid, so you only need the nut to install and remove. Put a little Loctite on the metal, holds this in place. This one, you need the nut driver and the hex driver to remove them. So, for anyone who has the Stormbreaker or who plans on ordering one, I would highly recommend picking up, and ordering some replacement parts. Order a couple of these so that you can use them for the rear. Alright, let's just get that back on. There we go. So, next bad thing. The receiver box. Now, some people have complained that it's too small, and for a very valid reason. As you notice, the receiver is not mounted in the normal position. As you can, might be able to see, it's upright. And as many have discovered, it's not even affixed into it. It's just shoved down in there. So some people have complained that you can't, install a standard, you can't install a standard receiver into this. And honestly, it's not a problem depending on the radio you're using. Just for example, FlySky. For the Noble line, they do have some 4-channel receivers that have internal antennas, and they fit upright in there. The antenna is upright, and the connectors still go right down in like normal. So that will fit. Another complaint that people have had about the Stormbreaker is the lack of stability management. No AVC, or I forget what Traxxas calls it, but essentially what it is a gyro that is built into the receiver, and this does not have it. I mean, previous vehicles have. So what can you do to fix that? Very easy. You could pick yourself up a third-party standalone gyro. These are very small. This one is by Futaba. This is the GYC 470. They do have other models, and these will fit in, and you can put them almost anywhere. Now, if that's too big for you, not a problem, because AGFRC has an even smaller one, and believe it or not, this one is the exact same dimensions as the power switch for the ESC. So, I'm probably going to install this right there. And, I mean, literally, I could put it on the rails anywheres. It is the exact same diameter. The width of it is exactly the same as those rails. So if I, you can see it barely, but can mount it there, could mount it slightly at an angle. Not that I'm recommending it, but you could put it on top of the servo. You could mount it on top of the receiver box. There's any number of places that you could mount it. So that will fix the problem of not having a gyro. But honestly, other than that, I really did not find anything else bad. Screws, almost all of them were tightened. Screws that are going into metal had thread lock on them, and not too much. Even the pinion, which I've already checked, the pinion came undone fairly easily. I did have to use a little extra force, but not so much that I was worried about stripping. But there you go. It is an outstanding vehicle. The problems are very minor. The pluses are huge. Incredibly happy with this vehicle, seriously. So, regarding those the speed testing, I will get that done soon. As soon as this cold front moves on and can go outside and not freeze. Now, as I said, I'm going to be doing it both with the Rlaarlo 2S and 3S on the stock pinion as well as the speed pinion, but I'm also going to do it with 2 other batteries. The Rlaarlo batteries are fairly low discharge rate, so I'm going to also use a 2S and a 3S that has a higher discharge rate, just to see if there is any difference in speed between the 2 types. So there you have it. The Stormbreaker, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Until next time, mahalo.